What's happening in the world? It's April 11th. Thank you for joining us for this weekly news broadcast. I put my heart and soul into documenting reality as we experience it and the world unfolding with cataclysmic events seemingly every week now. We'll begin with the microscopic and then work our way into data, charts, graphs, the big picture, and social commentary to put the cherry on top, so we cover all our bases here. If, in case you missed it, a biggest brain map ever details huge number of neurons and their activity in a mouse brain. High-resolution 3D map contains more than 200,000 brain cells, 82,000 of which are neurons, and more than 500 million of the neural connection points, called synapses, are more than 4 kilometers of neural wiring just from a tiny block of tissue in the brain region involved in vision, while they had the mice, which they grabbed the samples from, watch, you know what, The Matrix. Other world events possibly going on is this massive volcano eruption in Alaska, home to 300,000 people. It would be an all-out disaster all around, but you're just more concerned about your daily activities. So for that, I use Climate Spark if you haven't already. A great synthesizing of data of climates around the planet. We'll start with New York City, for instance. Around July and August, it gets very muggy and warm, and temperatures are kind of what you expect. You have the winter, a spring, and a summer, but we can move across the ocean to places like Tokyo, where kind of deviations going on here. Extremely muggy and even oppressive during August. I can relate to this in Dallas, where I'm from. We can see June, July, and August gets extremely muggy, and temperatures pretty much hot year-round. On the flip side, I moved to the kind of opposite with freezing winters and mild summers here in Sydney, New York, which is the closest town that I come to most often, with pretty moderate temperatures most of the year, with the exception of, like I said, January. Of course, there are extreme anomalies happening lately with the climate. In that case, we should also be reminded that it's been over 20 months of 1.5 degrees Celsius and 21 total in the past decade or two, which basically translates to you're effed, I'm effed, we're effed.
Llévense a este come mierda.
Next time it's fucking loaded.
Because just a quick search on what a 2-degree world looks like will come up with results that should frighten you out of your pants. Let's just do a quick Google search here. So it's just some of the things that we might experience. I would say this is on the conservative estimate, but in a 2-degree world, we'll imagine that 16% of plants will lose half their habitable area, 18% of insects will lose their habitable area, nearly all of the coral reefs are gone, which supplies fresh food and ecosystems around the planet. At least more than a third of the planet will experience fatal heat waves around the planet, and ice-free Arctic will appear every 10 years, which essentially means a blue ocean event next decade. In addition, global sea surface temperatures have increased their rise over the past decade, and even further, recent research suggests that 2023 and 2024 are actually beyond the new normal, and we have all the data to back this up. Surface air temperature, sea surface temperature, sea ice extent, pretty much everything's kind of going off the charts now. We're in very unfamiliar territory as we've experienced it on Earth. But who's doing all the polluting? The billionaires want to make it seem like it's you, but in fact the world's biggest CO2 polluters comes from these 36 countries. You can just see a small segment from North America, but most of it existing in the Asia and Middle East, Europe, and a tiny bit in Africa. So every one of these people would need to stop their business operations entirely, but then we would result in a lessening of aerosols and pollutants that come as a byproduct of this, and then thereby raise temperatures dramatically. This could also be said about the ongoing trade war, in which mass production of goods, which, there's 500 billion of them coming into the US from China, would mostly be stopped. And so sea surface temperatures in places around China and the US are going to probably dramatically rise. Much more to be seen on this, but we're the ridiculous terminally ill ape that needs a bill requiring climate change warnings on gas pumps. In 2025, we actually need a sign on a gas pump to telling you about the health impacts and stop you from buying that next tank of gasoline. Really? Yeah, we're going that low because in 15 years, 80,000 homes in New York area may be lost to flooding. Where would these people go? There's not enough housing, and even the housing that there is around these small towns is decrepit and broken down. So keep going to work like a good little wage slave and deal with workplace incivility is spiraling as companies rile up employees with RTO and layoffs, and a new research warns a $766 billion problem of people tattletelling and just being overall dickheads in the workspace. I am familiar. Let's close today's report with 7 outdated boomer behaviors that might be making you an exhausting person to deal with. Very relatable, a resistance to technology. They don't want to deal with smartphones or anything even remotely in the later 20th century because, they're just stuck in their ways. And the good old days syndrome, this is probably my least favorite, is when they come to me with these expressions like, I remember when gas used to be $1.50 and you can get a car battery for $50. Yeah, well, you can't anymore, and people are really suffering because of this. Cost of food has risen 21% since 2021. We don't appreciate your rosy spectacles that you're viewing through because we're fucking suffering, okay? The my way or the highway attitude, this is really just this cultural narcissism that's been infected the whole society, I would say. 80% of people are completely boxed into, they have no way to rebel against authority, and they'll just go along with the status quo. Over reliance on traditional media, you notice this everywhere. All they can watch is CNN or Fox, and most of us don't. Dismissing new ideas without consideration. Oh, this is our favorite because global warming isn't real, and look at the ice age, and just every number of things. What about China? Yeah, I'm aware. We're past the point of no return. Thank you for expressing you don't respect other people's personal boundaries. I've experienced this so many times. In fact, I can recall this reseller, like vintage antique reseller. It was a man and his wife like grabbed my shirt when I was trying to walk away to go photograph some items to sell. They had like cool like Houdini coin machine things and pinball, all kind of like movie props and stuff. And she just like they have no disregard for person. It's awful, dude. It's awful. And being stuck in their ways, that goes without saying. It just brings a little smile to my face when an older person is actually like, yeah, I have sympathy for your generation. It's like, wow, someone's exhibiting humanist traits. That's exceptional. So this has been your April 11th What's Happening in the World News Roundup. I felt this coming on all week with all these links, and there's even probably some things I didn't even get to. This tariff war and J.D. Vance calling Chinese people peasants. Newsflash, we're all peasants too. And the circus clown show in the White House has no idea what they're doing. No country has opened up negotiations with Trump. He's just lying. He lies about everything, and you can see right through it. It's understandable that, at least 30-40% of the population is just completely clueless fucking morons, out of touch with reality, and can't count pennies or dimes. So times are hard, and I fear that this trade war between U.S. and China, considering everything is literally made in China, I mean, look around you. Everything. And young people don't want blue-collar jobs. 1 out of 5 people would even go into such a job, nor does it take decades of infrastructure advancement and wage unsuppression, which has been, killing all of us. Cost of goods going up, wages not keeping up. Got the petroleum truck driving by. I mean, you guys saw the report in Davos from that sex worker that said the billionaires just want to go out with a bang. They know we're not going to deindustrialize the entire world economy, and I'm over it, kind of. I want to keep this all into consideration, but Laurent wrote to me, I hope you don't mind, you're in the comments, that he's over blaming humanity for its epic failures. And if you guys haven't noticed, obviously I've been there for the past several months. I was in a rage in the early 2020s, but it takes time, heals all wounds, I suppose, and just coming around to the fact that, we're the terminally ill ape. It was over when we discovered fossil fuels. We could not resist Adam and Eve, the apple, temptation, all of that. Having everyone living like kings now. Queens. I just watched Gladiator 2. It was okay. Really like Ridley Scott, though, obviously. Much more peaceful now. And to have this community of some of you that have been with me for years. So thanks. I won't keep rambling. April 11th, thanks for hanging out. I'll talk to you next time.